Thank you and welcome back to the final segment of the show for today. The issue is the rise and fall of Adolf Hitler, and Alana McLaughlin has given us some information about his rise, and I think now, Alana, you will talk about the fall and, in real sense, the demise of Adolf Hitler. Let's do it from that perspective, to bring in as much information as you can during this last 10 minutes, dealing with some of the high points in reference to his life.
So in the last segment, I talked about the Hitler and his crazy mindset, and I really went into the Holocaust. And now in the segment, I'm going to basically talk about more of the fall of Adolf Hitler and the aftermath. All right. So it's nearing the end of the war. The guards of the concentration camps know it's near the end of the war. They know the time is near, that everything's about to be over. So they have the bright idea of trying to eliminate the lasting Jews and trying to make this Holocaust seem like it was all a hoax. So basically, what they would do is they would kill off the remaining Jews in the death camps or concentration camps, or in the work camps. They would kill them off, and they would try to tear down as much of the camp as they could. Like, for instance, Auschwitz. They killed the remaining people there, and they tried to tear down Auschwitz as much as they could. But luckily, they didn't tear down the whole thing. So if you just so happen to find where it is, I mean, there are a few lasting bricks. But another fact about the Holocaust, some survivors who barely survived Auschwitz came back to the site where they were held captive, you know, over the years, and they would take a brick from Auschwitz and just keep it as memory. And the gate that says Auschwitz, it can be found in the U.S. Holocaust Museum, which I was fortunate enough to visit over the last couple weeks. I went there about 2 weeks ago. And so I'm going to talk about the Holocaust Museum for a second. In the museum, it has a very intricate setup. For instance, it has 4 floors, but you don't go, you go 1 floor and you keep going up. You go to the 4th floor and you go down. So you get on this big elevator, and they try to squish as many people in as they can to try to capture the essence, or capture a fraction of the essence of how it would be in a train car. And so this video shows up on a screen in the elevator, and it talks a little about the Holocaust, but not very much because they don't want to give much away. So you ride up to the very 4th floor, and in the 4th floor, it just talks about the rise of Adolf Hitler, his childhood and, the beginning of the Holocaust. But in a different section of the 4th floor, it gets deeper into the Holocaust. So after you leave the 4th floor, you walk through a staircase, or kind of like a little bridge, where if you look out of a window, you can see the lower floors. But a fun thing about it is, on the little glass panels of the museum, there are names of families that were involved in the Holocaust. So you'll see Horn and a lot of other names that were families of people who were killed in the Holocaust, and they're all etched into the glass. So you walk across this bridge, you enter the 3rd floor, which talks more in-depthly about the Holocaust, and they even have a train car, and it's not even a replica, an actual train car that they had to have flown in and dropped into the building, and they had to build the building around it. And so you can see that train car, and you walk through it where you can explore other divisions of the 3rd floor. After that, you walk down a staircase, and if you look out of a window by the staircase, it says, "Never forget, always remember." And so you see more of those bold yet simple statements around the Holocaust Museum. And like, for instance, outside of the Holocaust Museum, like on a door, or not on a door, but on kind of a wall, that etched in, it says, "You are my witnesses." And it's a passage, it's a little scripture from, I think, Isaiah in the Bible. And it says, "You are my witnesses." And so that really means that we bear witness for the people who can no longer tell their stories. And it is our duty as people who are living after this has happened, to tell our children and for them to tell their children, so that the memory of this is never forgotten. Because there are people out there and there are websites out there that try to chalk the Holocaust as a hoax. And you can find, and you have to be really careful where you look up information about the Holocaust, because you will find a lot of sites like that. They'll say concentration camps never existed, the Holocaust never happened, it was all fabricated, it all was all a war tactic or something like that. It's stuff that doesn't really make sense. And so we have to bear witness to these people. And so when you get done with the third floor, you go to the second one, and it has testimonials from people who happen to survive the Holocaust. And there's this one real popular testimonial about a woman who married the man who saved her, or a man from the army who came and, you know, rescued the people that were in her camp. And so after you take a walk around the first floor, you'll, oh, I forgot an essential part of the first floor, the shoes. It depends on what time of the year you go, but you will see shoes from the Holocaust. There are children's shoes, women's shoes, and you see a lot of heels and stuff, and it really shows that these people didn't know what they were getting into, because who would wear heels to go work in go die in a death camp? And so it really shows how these people were fabricated and lied to, only saying, oh, they would be going to work. And they just ended up being killed. And so
they were just swept off the street by the armies, by Hitler's armies, and placed into the Holocaust.
Either that, or they were lied to, and the whole Holocaust was sugar-coated. And another thing about sugar-coating, when the Red Cross would come and inspect the camps, they wouldn't wash them up beautifully. They would make it look like everyone was having fun. They would give, about a month prior to when the Red Cross would visit, they would give the workers food and lots of drink and stuff to kind of give them pounds, because the life expectancy in a Holocaust, in a death camp or a concentration camp, was 275 days. You weren't even going to make it a year, and that's because they didn't feed you, you barely bathed, you never had enough to drink, and you basically didn't have all the basic human necessities that we as people take for granted nowadays. And so they would clean them up, and so that's why a lot of the world during this period was lied to. And only until it was too late did we realize what was happening, because either a lot of stuff wasn't broadcasted, or only the good stuff was broadcasted, and it would just be lies. When we would see people smiling and just skipping along, these people were grieving the death of their children who were just thrown into furnaces because they were marked incapable of work. And so a lot of the world was really lied to, and that's why so many people died, because there were African Americans there were Slavs and Gypsies and Jews mainly. And so anybody who didn't fit Hitler's criteria, and like I said in the last segment, the Aryan race, which isn't really a race, but that's what we say today, the Aryan race, if you weren't the Aryan race, you weren't coming out alive. But there was another way that a lot of people did manage to survive. Well, not a lot, but a fraction of people did manage to survive the Holocaust. They would get on boats and sail to different countries. And there's a story, that's not really a story, but a famous incident where people got these fake passports, and they sailed from Germany to Cuba. And at first Cuba was going to let them in, but then Cuba changed their mind and did not let them in. So they sailed around the sea, not wanting to go back to Germany, and everyone on the boat perished. And so all these people, and unless you had connections in America, then you could get out if you got a fake passport, you know, you flew over there. And that's how a couple families did manage to get out of the Holocaust. But besides that, it was a death sentence. There was no way you could escape Nazi Germany. And
so in a real sense, Lana, you were able to get a real experience from your visit to the Holocaust Museum, and you would advise and encourage everybody else to do the same.
Yeah.
Is that what you'd say?
And I forgot to mention, the first floor and the very last floor of the Holocaust Museum says the Hall of Remembrance, and there's an everlasting fire, and it's always reminding you to remember.
And of course, let me encourage you to tune in again next week to another informative edition of Comments. Thank you, and good morning.
Put that over there for me. Yeah. Doc, how you been doing?
Well, I think everything's well with me. Everything's well with me.
That's good.
The second of 5 we have for today, and so we're out of here.
After this, you're done?
No, this is the second show.
Okay.
3 more after this.
Okay.
We got a pretty good lineup, you know. We got a group coming in talking about the golden generation.
What is that? I mean.
That's all our young folks.
Oh, okay.
They call these the broken generation.
The disconnected generation, yeah.
And then we got one dealing with unique gents, which is sort of a mentoring kind of program. Then we've got a group dealing with facets of domestic, of child abuse. Child abuse.
You put that in, okay. So child abuse, you're dealing with that too?
Child abuse. I've got a couple of ministers coming in.
Okay. Who? Joe Walker?
No, Kevin Walker.
Okay.
And Simmons.
Uh-huh.
Reverend Dr. Simmons. Simmons or whatever. And so we've got a good lineup.
That's good, man. That's good.
I got a fellow by the name of Lewis Baldwin coming in.
Yeah.
Confederate flag.
Yeah, well,
The change in racial.
yeah, that's a climate. That's a hot topic today.
That is
Yeah, hot topic.
Very
So,
hot topic. You know,
so I thought of that immediately.
yeah, that's it. That's it. So you got a lot of information in reference to.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
You know, my wife. You know, since all of this forest bashing is going on now, my wife is from a city that was named in honor of
Nathan Bedford Forest.
Forest City, Arkansas.
You're from Arkansas too, huh?
I'm from Hope, Arkansas. Yeah.
Bill Clinton's hometown.
Hey, I told everybody I was going to be the most important person coming out of Hope, Arkansas.
Yeah, well, you got it.
President.
You know, I went to Hope. I was on my way to Marshall, Texas, and I stopped in Hope.
Okay,
Yeah, and I picked up some memorabilia.
You're getting the watermelon.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Hope, Arkansas. Yeah.
That's my town.
So you're both from Arkansas.
We're both from Arkansas. Met in the middle, you know. I'm
Yeah.
on one end of the state and she's on another end of the state, and we met at Pine Bluff, Arkansas.
Well, you know, my wife is from Greenville, Mississippi, which is not far from the Arkansas line.
Very good.
Yeah, and I'm from Alabama, of course. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. You got a new cameraman today.
Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, how you doing, man? Lewis Baldwin.
Nice to meet you.
Great to meet
the
you.
New morning director.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, so we're trying to get some hot topics for you. Something that would,
Make sense.
soon after that massacre and the removal of the flag in South Carolina.
What's going on out on 65 North? I mean, Highway 65 with.
Well, I've been reading some things. I'm not
Have you
sure.
never seen that forest?
I've seen it. Oh, yes. I go to Birmingham a lot.
Yeah, you can't
Alabama, and you can't.
look
It's
over
on the
it.
left-hand side. Yeah.
Where is that located at?
That's right off Harding Place.
Yeah, that hiding place. Yeah, you
off
got
Harding Place.
Forrest on this horse with all these Confederate flags around him. Yeah. They're talking about, well, that's private property, I think.
Yeah, that's.
But they're talking about planting trees. I'm not sure that's gonna.
I don't think it.
You know, ultimately, I think it's what's in the hearts of people. You know, and you got to work on the heart.
It's gonna be hard to hide that. I mean, that's way up.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah,
You have to. Yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
That meant it's gonna have to take that thing down.
Yep. Take it. Yeah.
You heard he's planning on he's got it on hydraulics.
Oh no, yeah.
Yeah, that way in case they plant something in front of it, he's
You're
gonna
gonna
raise it up.
Yeah. Oh, I see. So that's the choice, I think. Okay.
We've covered it a few times now. It's just gotten more ridiculous
yeah.
every time.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll ever be able to get rid of these symbols. But and that's not the most important thing. The most important thing, of course, is to change the hearts of people. And, you know, the symbol will continuously be debated, I think, in terms of what it means, you know. So, yeah.
Yeah, we trying to get rid of the Confederate flag, and I think you got some information in reference to it. Too.
Yeah, talk about I think we should talk about the origins of it, how it developed as a symbol, and then talk about the civil rights movement, how it was used in that time. And then end with where we're going in the future in terms of the debate over this symbol, you see.